sport itself has definitively changed. I mean, we've done a lot to continue to regulate, a lot to continue to pick and choose our athletes wisely. There's no more mismatches. We've instituted time limits and weight classes and really tweaked the rules effectively to make sure that priority number one continues to be the safety of our fighters.
The sport's not going anywhere but up. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Guys were fighting for $10,000 are now fighting for $500,000 and $1 million.
We're getting anywhere from 500,000 pay-per-view buys to some of the bigger fights, a million pay-per-view buys, which are huge numbers.
It's all over Sports Illustrated. It's all over the New York Times. It's all over all the men's journals.
It's bigger than baseball, the NBA, the NHL, tennis, golf. NASCAR gets better ratings than it. It's still below NASCAR and the NFL in terms of, you know, TV ratings and fan base. But the UFC has shot up in my career to the top of the food chain. It's so popular now, it's a nightly event. It's uncontrollable.
It has spread to all the international markets as well. It's very big in Great Britain now, and it's been big in Japan for a long time, and obviously it's big in Brazil.
And this is the only sport that I've ever seen where guys from another country will actually cheer a guy from a different country.
Everyone relates to two guys getting into a cage and throwing down until one guy wins and one guy taps out. One guy either beats the other guy senseless, knocks him out, strangles him, ground and pounds him. Everyone can relate to that.
And we haven't even scratched the surface of how big the sport's going to be. And I personally think it's going to be the biggest sport in the world.
I'm hoping he touches on the fact that the fighters are humans and they do have fears like everyone else. And
my experience has been that people actually do something when the pressure's on in front of others probably have a great deal of natural ability to act. They know the difference between being on and being not on. They can do it when the pressure's on. So they have extraordinary character in their face. I mean, you turn the camera on Randy Couture, you know, or on Danny Inosanto, and you just watch him all day.
Well, I was a professional fighter, and I've been practicing jiu-jitsu for about 5 years. Because I know, you know, I know how to use the hands, I know how to punch, but 9 out of 10 times you go into the dirt. So I want to know when I go to the ground, what am I going to do then? So this is why I started taking the Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
I like my fight with Frank Shamrock. I lost that fight, but somehow the fight that I lost was the fight that I learned the most about myself and the fight that I enjoyed the most. The fight for my career was when I beat Randy Couture. I enjoyed that because it catapulted my career into something which made my life today.
I started wrestling when I was 10 years old, and I wrestled all through school, wrestled in the service for 6 years, wrestled in college, wrestled for the U.S. national team for a while, and kind of took up fighting in 1997, and it's just kind of an extension of wrestling. And 10 years later, I'm still here and I'm still fighting. So.
And some of my fights, I did it before the Pan America game. I won in 1997 in Hawaii. Give me a different jump for my career in the United States.
Yeah, I came in 1990, like I said. I had a brother here. My first brother, Hagan, came in 88.
I think it was maybe 10 years ago, I started training Jeet Kune Do, which is the martial arts that was developed by Bruce Lee. And Dan Inosanto was sort of his training partner or help create it. He's actually in this film.
I trained in the art called Kempo Karate. I trained in Jiu-Jitsu, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, Nihon Jiu-Jitsu. I trained in various Korean systems, Okinawan systems, in the Filipino martial arts, both in Kali, Eskrima, and Arnes.
You think they are all like, you know, raw, and not really. You know, the real ones, the guys who, you know, they have a lot of philosophy, spirituality.
One of my teachers was Bruce Lee. I trained with him in 1964 until his death in '72. And he was kind of anti-competition. He wasn't in the competition. He was, although he's a movie star, most people didn't realize it, he was very spiritual.
The physical training that you endure will develop your mental strength.
If you grow mentally and emotionally and physically, you become spiritual. And it sounds corny, but I really thoroughly believe in that.
The point is not that these guys are well known enough. The point is, why are they well known? And the point is that they're well known because they're great at what they do. Out of respect to my teachers and to the art which they've created, it's important that it's completely authentic.
All right, make a lane.
The fights were choreographed by my teacher, Renato Magno. He and I talked about what I thought the nature of the fight would be, and he'd say, okay, and he'd go away with the people who worked with him, and they'd say, here's what we think, is this more or less what you had in mind? He had the capacity to, because he knows everybody and is vastly respected, to reach out to the greatest fighters. And these guys would come in and either appear in the movie and or suggest moves for the choreography, which Renato did.
Usually you don't have the director but for a couple of hours. With David, he was there every single day, every single hour, and he's in the process doing the same things that we're doing.
We all got together to do the best that we can to bring reality to the movie. So to make the fights real, not fancy, but real.
When I hired each stunt double and each guy that was playing a part, we all worked in the dojo with David Mamet and all the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu fighters, and we got them to learn all the different moves. Some of them were pretty proficient in a lot of it, because a lot of them do wushu and a lot of different forms of karate.
I think anything you do in the fight genre for camera is a little bit Hollywoodized. There's no way around that. We can't sit out here and punch guys in the face, unfortunately, but
these guys can throw some wild stuff that we really can't do with actors. If we did this for real, we'd have cuts and bruises and stitches and blood all over the ring, and it's tough to do multiple times with real fighters when they're really fighting. I wouldn't want to fight these guys.
One of the reasons maybe that there hasn't been a jiu-jitsu film previously is most of jiu-jitsu happens in a way that if you don't know what you're looking at, you can't understand it, because the guys are tied up. And the most dramatic thing could be one guy has worked for X minutes to get his hand under there, and that's what's going to turn the fighter up.
With every scene that you go in thinking one thing, and then you realize that all the preparation, it's not in the preparation, it's the actual thing itself. You know, the way these guys are very relaxed. You know, you think about fighting, you think about muscle, testosterone, beating someone up, and going to these schools, it reminded me, it's quite the opposite. You know, Bruce Lee used to always say, when you're at a distance of sparring, you should be able to smile and tell a joke. Hanato's always telling jokes.
I'm actually retired, so I was actually about 235 pounds, and I was just relaxing and everything. And then when I got the call, they said, oh yeah, they wanted me in, you know, I'm going to be a fighter, so they want me in fighting shape. And I'm like, oh man, I got to get in fighting shape.
If you fight the real way, I mean, like you fight in the dojo, it's very closed in, there is no space, everything is hidden. What's going on there? So we have to, it's a huge adaptation for the camera.
Some of the moves are so fast, the camera just can't pick it up. And we need to be very particular about what we pick and choose so that, you know, the camera can see each and every one of these moves that's so interesting.
Mr. Flynn!
One of the toughest scenes for us was the under the bleachers scene.
Mr. Flynn! Hey, Mr. Flynn, I need to talk to you!
He has to fight his way through 7 guys to get to the final fighter. And you have to go through probably 80 to 90 feet of space to get through the final guy, and that's a lot of fighting. It covered a lot of distance, it covered a lot of cameras, we had to go forward, behind him and in front of him. Just a lot involved, and it's very time consuming, and we just don't have a week to shoot this whole thing. We've got this whole fight we've got to do in 2 days.
Mr. Flynn! You want to fight? Why don't you go to the fucking ring?
With the exception of one shot, all the fighting is shoot and tell. And he came and he started training in London about a month before, and then he started training rigorously over here with Renato and those guys.
The way into the character was through the martial art.
Gonna play?
Okay.
Oh, it's so much fun. He's a great athlete. Phenomenal actor. The last 4 weeks, he's been working very, very hard.
It highlights the technical part of our sport very well, and especially kind of the jiu-jitsu backdrop with the Brazilian culture and all those things, which is a big part of our sport and how our sport originated here in the U.S. So I think it sheds some positive light on our sport.
It's pretty cool just to see our sport going behind the scenes, being put into a movie theme, and then coming out as the conflict will be settled in a fight.
I think, you know, this is one of those movies that you watch and you walk away with at the end of the day. You know what? You don't have to take shortcuts, and you don't have to give up your integrity. I think it's just one of those feel-good movies. It tells you you can be a good guy and win.
That was beautiful, everybody. That's beautiful. Go get it.